Yo, what's happening, audience? All good? Cheers. My tea. Okay. Well, last three videos that I made, they were all like the same background and with this t-shirt. You're right. I should change the background. One sec. Great thinking, audience. Good idea. Cheers. So much better outside. But sometimes inside is nice too. Let's talk about something. Oh, sure. There's two things I want to talk about today. Like, as always, everything is about like putting everything in the right place, in the right perspective. Everything has its own place. Like, first of all, if you start with this premise that everything has in its right place, everything, then at least you start with the premise of something that is whole, that's something that could work perfectly like a well-oiled machine, you know, like your entire life could possibly work like that. It is possible, that's the whole point of life, really, is to how to accomplish equilibrium in this game while playing all sorts of games. And some people say everything just have to be secure, 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 and other people say no, live hard, live fast, and gamble and stuff like that. And of course, at extremes, there's a problem with that. This is why one of the principles of life is to have like a appropriate pyramid of where you put your energy. For example, if you have some um, place where you play, I mean, if you have um, a form of wealth, for example, in the real estate and as like a slow income, and you may have also a form of like business, or you can be gambling or trading, right? You see? Now, if you put everything in the right place, everything it has its right place. That's why always my motto is just play with the money that you can afford to lose. But play. Like I always say, like, wow, why would you even bother with that? You know? It is because it's like that. Everything has to be built on strong foundation. And that is basically every time I point to alchemy about that, touching with your attention something within yourself in a perfect way, the art of calibrating your attention until it touches in a perfect way, and you achieve that sort of, not that you achieve, but it's like the snake eating its own tail, and then the observer disappears, and then there's just one way of saying it: when there's no separation between you and what you're experiencing, it's very, very intimate, very, very close. And then that's what creates that sensation or feeling of peace or bliss, all done through your attention. And the game is not to let that observer to accumulate, because that observer is the ego. It's like you have, so your base of reality is super safe because your consciousness is resting at, oh man, I have a huge piranha in my cenote. I think it's time for fishing. Anyway, so right, the foundation. This is why this one first. This one first. And it's not like you got to stop other things from doing other things. Now, of course, some of the things is just going to change naturally. You won't be able to do the same thing because when you start observing, that sense of separation, which from everything stems from, that sense of separation, that's just another way of saying it, which is ego. When you dissolve that, then everything is put into its right place. Okay, and that's the job number one. Without this, nothing else is going to happen. And of course, it's to do with other people, time, and many other factors. But none of it is personal. And of course, not that I've never taken things personal. Of course, I have, and I can see that. Okay, this is not the way. You cannot take things personal. That's not going to give you an answer for sure. So you see everything as just like this energy that is incoherent, and you're doing your best to convert that incoherent energy to the coherent energy while interacting with the world in the best possible way. And sometimes saying no and not letting something to happen, and sometimes letting something to happen. That type of responsibility in making decisions on a physical terms is still there. You don't retire from that, right? Like you don't retire from being an adult, even though you're discovering that part of a baby within you. First, you discover the most grown-up parts, which is this background of everything, void, and this divine spark in unison. That's first. If you got that, okay, then you can play. If you don't got that, then you can't play, because you're gonna remain in this matrix, and it's always going to be at the devil's bargain. What does that mean? It means that you're gonna get something but lose something else. You understand? That's how matrix works. It's like, hey, you can have all of that, and you gotta watch how this works within people, within you. You gotta watch that this is indeed a devil's bargain, that you're not gonna gain anything from it, that you're just gonna get one piece of your life handled at the cost of another. And you say, okay, that's not a fair bargain. Like if I gotta lose my soul and feel really bad, but I get that superficial success of income, fame, or whatever that ego wants, then it's no deal, right? And then if you can keep your soul, and then you see, and your soul would be at the background of that peaceful bliss that you've discovered, and that's your basis of the reality. And if everything else taken away from you, not even those amazing feelings of being yourself as a soul, that's even taken away, you're still always going to have that peaceful bliss at the existence, at the beginning of the existence, before the Big Bang. No pun intended. Although, if you bang, you bang big. You know what I'm saying? No, well, for real though, for real. You don't want to have like big bangs than many little ones. Although, let me tell you something. That's exactly not the right type of thinking. The answer is supposed to be both. I want both. Because you got a big drum, and then you got a little one. Okay, don't make it dirty, okay? Let's move on. But what does that mean, like, in your life? If you have that background, but it's unmoving, but at least, even if you don't have that amazing feeling or whatever, and sometimes you can't have that because the times are so dark that the only place for you to be in balance is going to be at that ultimate peace and ultimate bliss. That peaceful bliss. That would be the only place for you to be, so to speak, at that particular moment. And that would be appropriate because you would have been in the process of dissolving something, right? And sometimes in life, that sometimes that heaviness comes along, then you know that it is time to process that. Don't take any kind of action. Don't try to, create something new or anything like that. The only thing that you may still want to do is use your imagination to like make money, make your ends meet, right? But that type of imagination is independent from the world of feelings. that's just like things, right? And the reason I'm saying that, because that may be one of the mistakes that people make and say like, well, I'm gonna, because after you start alchemizing, realizing like everything that you were manifesting without that is crap, and then you kind of don't need that anymore and let that shit go. And so then imagination stops doing the same thing that they've been doing before, creating these images as a temporary resolutions for the lack of um, coherence within your soul, only because you have not placed attention there, and snake has not eaten its tail. Okay, and because that snake is alive and have not been addressed, then that's what's going to come into your world. So you want to address that first. And when you're addressing that first, you still need some things in your life, right? That's what I'm trying to say. That's the only thing that you use it. And whether you're still working on your alchemy and whatnot, and if you need to get something, or or sustain yourself financially or whatever, you still use your mind, you still think, you still see how to make the money. Keep that adult side on, but that adult side is just does its thing to get things which are important to sustain your body and keep your body happy, but they're not these deep things that what your heart wants, what your mind wants, right? So this is why you keep your body the way it is. Everything that you learn about the reality up to this point, it works in a world of body but nowhere else. And then you start using the other form of being within yourself. Okay, and the only way I know is through the attention and awareness, or courage and surrender, which is a faculty of your consciousness that is capable to connecting the dots as a puzzle to be resolved, which is at first. Then when that base is quiet, that where there's this motion and non-motion, which is the highest possible frequency and the lowest possible frequency, which is 0 and 1 or whatever, and then when they have in complete balance, then there's a coherence in the background. Upon this foundation, you begin to build something. If you don't have a soil, don't bother planting the seeds, because they won't grow. And that's what's been happening to me. I could produce the amazing seeds, but they don't germinate because my soil, so to speak, is not yet ready. Which means that that's the game of stabilizing this element that people call philosopher's stone. And it appears it is possible to stabilize it. And it appears that it stabilizes upon when you have a perfect relationship with every possible pattern in the world, in your life. I know it's a lot, but here's the trick. If you refuse at least a little part on emotional level, physical level, sure, you got to say no again, but in emotional level, if you refuse at least a single part, that part of you is going to be folded in a different way, which you don't want it to be folded like that, because that part of you is missing that coherence. This is why you cannot have full and total coherence without one part missing. Okay? What am I saying here? I'm saying first, build a great foundation. And I've been trying to stabilize this thing since I took DMT the first time, actually. I still in the process of stabilizing this. But I can clearly see how it gets more and more stable, and what makes it more and more stable and what not. And then I can put the cart before the horse right now. Okay, I mean, yeah, you see, like that is the level of genius that you have to have. This ain't no joke, guys. So, and it's a bit of a bitch to take all of that on your chin sometimes, so to speak. But that just tests your capacity to for alchemy and devotion, you know. And there's no shame in losing battles sometimes, but if there would be such thing as a shame, the only thing that would be shame is stopping this and 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 giving up on this calibration because like there was one something that you could not handle. You know what I'm trying to say. Um, so you want to recover as soon as possible, and this is one of the principles in life that is just going to carry you. It's the speed of your recovery. And so, for example, in trading, which is supposed to be like 10% of your uh, resources, you know, no more that you're trading. And even then you have to put like a slice in there and play with that slice. When that slice becomes big, take the winnings, make the small slice again, and you got to prepare for that and play like that. Okay, and then you can make some money. But to um, right, but there's also losses there, you see. And every time you lose, and for example every time you see that, okay, all right, this doesn't feel right. Let's say you were playing, right, and everything was going great, and you had the theory that this is how the fractal is going to go, and you can see that this fractal is not going that way. And it's not about that. um, it is okay at that moment. It's not about like being right or anything like that. It's how it feels. You see, it's the practice of being able to just you're in a trade, and price, for example, moves against you, even if you positioned really well and you do the dollar cost average and everything, you play perfectly. Still, the price just starts moving against you, and you're just like, okay, this is the behavior that I don't like. Like you see, like, okay, the market is behaving. You can allow a little bit of like nuances there, but when it's saying that, when it's doing some things, they're like, okay, that doesn't feel right, then at that moment you stop playing. Whatever there is, if it's you need to like take a little loss and whatever, you just stop playing because your feelings already telling you that it doesn't feel right. So when you start playing like that, and you make, because if these feelings arise from the piece, but on a level of feelings they're still talking to you, and if you listen to them, then that may improve your trading dramatically, um, because you listen to intuition. That's all. And maybe just gain the respect to that thing called intuition. And having intuition is great, but listening to it is difficult. That's pretty much like what I have been happening to me. When I listen to my intuition, popping, unlocking. As soon as I stop listening, I gotta take it on the chin. But the fact that I am taking it on the chin and I'm cutting my losses and not completely getting liquidated and then repositioning myself anew, that just puts me in a little bit higher level of maturity and capable of sailing the rough seas of Bitcoin, for example, better. But at this point in my life, I'm not relying there on the money, right? This is a personal development tool for me. And the money is a game, right? I don't rely on the money from trading. No one should ever rely from the money on trading or any kind of game of chance. However, not to play the game of chance, you're missing out on the development and the side of you of intuition, of being able to be good with chances. developing luck, so to speak, right? That's important, because that will help you also make better decisions in life. Okay, it's rough to go into the unknown. It's not easy, and but at least you do, and at least you're trying to figure it out. At least you're freaking doing something, right? Okay, you're getting your ass handed to you, but you're still looking. What's the thing, right? And so if you embark on this already using these principles, you're way ahead of, me, from where for example, I started. And this is one of those things that obviously makes sense to test out the principles of somebody who has already been there, done that. For example, Jeff Bezos' rocket just blew up. If he wasn't an asshole to Elon, and he wasn't on good terms, and he wasn't getting into pissing, battles and on all that shit, and there was a collaboration between their companies, do you think his rocket would have blown up right now? Of course it wouldn't. It should have. I mean, it would have been in the orbit right now. Why? Because the exchange of wisdom, the exchange of knowledge, right? So it's like, hey, I'm trying to make a rocket. Yeah, look, I've already made those mistakes. I blew up 3 fucking rockets. Do you really need to do the same thing, make the same mistakes again? Or you could just, let your ego go and understand that it's not a pissing battle, but let's collaborate and compete at the same time. When you collaborate and compete, then it's a friendly competition. And this is the only type of competition that should be accepted in your life. It should never be kind of bad blood competition, because it's bullshit. And if somebody is trying to play a bad blood competition with you, your job is to soothe that thing out. You gotta soothe that thing out. Basically, the few times the taunting may be there, but if it's not gonna be a reaction, they're not gonna be. The demons are not gonna be interested to play with you, because you are not playing with them, right? And you look at this. Look, this person is. I know exactly what it's doing and what it's trying to take me, but I'm going to iron this thing out, and I'm going to have patience. Not the patience of waiting for it to end, but transmuting all these feelings and absorbing these attacks with ultimate void, which is possible to do. And that's the only way to not to get caught in it, because energies have to flow somewhere. You can't. You see, I started seeing this, which is phenomenal to see this. It's like, if there is some sort of tension energy and you feel it, right? And you have not alchemized it and whatever, and then there's some tension. Where do you think that energy is going to go? It's going to have to look for the ways to manifest itself as some sort of violent motion, because it's so much energy. So you don't want to keep that energy like that. Okay? And if you don't take things personal, I know it may say like, well, it's kind of not that human anymore. How can I not take things personal? Yeah, but you already taken things personal once. Okay, fine. You saw that that's not the way to do it. And so there's gotta be this thing that you think that it's not very human thing anymore. But that's exactly what is necessary for you to be able to resolve that thing that is of human, right? And it's not that you're losing your humanity, you're actually gaining something else besides your humanity. So your humanity can evolve, but you're not losing it. I know. And really, at the core of things is what kind of energy are you going to be birthing? And that depends on your alchemy and devotion. If your attention is in the right place, again, I'm talking this as I'm some sort of, like as if I'm an expert, or everything. I never let anything slide and whatnot. Sometimes I do, right? But at least I recognize when it happens. I recognize the energy crash and all these things. It's okay, fair enough. I see how it works. Next time, adjust, calibrate all the time. So yeah, and some days are just going to be more alchemical days, right? And you're going to have to be staring at that thing that is there, and and becoming it. When the subject and object disappears, that's when you calibrate it. And I said in the previous video that we should look at this as a skill, because mind cannot really comprehend any other way. It is a skill, and it's a faculty of consciousness that I found a lot of people have. I don't know if everybody has it. I don't know that yet. But I know that a lot of people do have that capacity, which means that they're capable of transmuting the energy from dark to light. And also, perhaps it's not really worthy of trying other people to be the same, because perhaps there's some of the souls are, they're not stars, they're planets. They cannot transmute the energy. They will depend on stars, and that's okay. And so, when you try to convince a planet that it's a star, then you're going to find it very difficult to do so, and you're going to lose a lot of energy doing so, because you're trying to make something that is not meant to be made into, right? And so then there is less of that trying to fix people, and rather just keep on doing your work and having people to come in through the motion of gravity as energy, and they come in and, all right, I want to learn that thing, but my job is position myself. I'm not going to go out there, look and try to change people and say, oh, that's my mission in the world and whatever. I do have mission in the world, but this is not supposed to be the mission. This is not supposed to see, like, this is not supposed to be even this business that you have to advertise, and you see through this advertising of looking for the clients. No, you got to just do spontaneously, and you got to depend on the algorithm of love, of you actually having somebody to able to calibrate energy so well that they stay on a holistic side, right? So that's the best way that I could approach it, for it not to become like this business that has to be made according to business strategy, right? This doesn't have a business strategy. My strategy is to whoever wants to, I will show it to them, and I will charge for my time. Because if I wouldn't charge for my time, I would be also breaking the law of reciprocity. And because we live in the world of money, and because we do so, the exchange must be there, right? That where the matrix should be respected, where the matrix is, and that is about tangible goods and exchanges. And if there's a value exchange, there's that. It has to be externally represented. It's important too. It's part of the energy. It's not separate. You understand that it is super important. So that's why I charge people for that. It doesn't have to be even money, but some sort of value exchange must be taken part, And then I also do hypnosis because once this calibration is done, once the alchemy is fine, then hypnosis is not the same that it was before, of trying to change the state of consciousness through the imagination, because that's dark hypnosis, and I've dealt with that, and that's not okay. It appears to be, like I said, that to be a solution, but you're actually just using imagination to compensate for the lack of these things. And so that's a dark imagination, as dark type of hypnosis. And I went into this world without the heart, and saw it that if you try to succeed there, it's going to be Luciferian type of approach. And so I saw it, and I did not stay there. Right? I saw it once, and I started realizing, like, oh my God, where the fuck am I? Like, and I'm now independent on this shit. I'm addicted on this shit. Hoo-wee! So I had to quit my addiction. I think like everybody in life will have a point where they're going to have to quit some sort of addiction and find a way out of it. And this addiction was so intense that the only thing that is fixed for me is this ultimate calibration of consciousness to find the ultimate void and ultimate divine spark within myself. That because that's the only thing that would get me out of this, you know. And I still sometimes moved by it. Okay. And because I recognize that I'm not fully patched yet, then at least I know that more and more attention still needs to be put on the right place, and not to give myself a break, right? Like, oh, you deserve to go this way, and then get that attention to go there again, right? So, okay, so we're not going back, okay? However, when you pop on the other side, your imagination first starts as feelings, but you can imagine feelings. It may be something new, you know, but you can totally start imagining the feelings. It's almost like you're just visiting your gem museum that you've already unlocked, or you got this feeling. So then you can go and to enjoy that feeling. There's another feeling there, you see, and it's kind of, these are your gems. And when your background is, when there's a lot of space there, it's very easy to go to these feelings. You have an intent, and it's there, and it is type of, I would describe it as taking a shape. You take a shape, like geometrical shape, and there's that feeling. Or some sort of contact, some sort of touch, some sort of movement there, that is like primordial imagination. I don't know, maybe we should use another word for it, because we should use another word for it, because it's not dealing with the images yet. These are just geometry as feelings. So what kind of word can we use? Because we did the calibration, okay? We have action in the physical world. We have imagination in the astral world. And then on the spirit world, which we start with, we have calibration. And then we go into this process that I'm talking about, the primordial imagination, which is what? Harmonization. Yes. Calibration, harmonization, imagination, and action. So that's the sequence: the seed, the germ, the flower, the fruit. The seed, the germ, the flower, the fruit. Okay, we got to play through all of those. Okay, and if your calibration is done, then harmonization is quite easy. And in the world of harmonization, I'm learning everything. You see, because I'm learning everything from scratch, and I don't read books at the moment. Not that books are bad or anything like that. It's just that I don't, because I also try not to watch videos unless they're really for the reason of me just calibrating a little more, you know. But I try not to discover anything from the outside, because that's old news. I have to reinvent everything from scratch. So that's the approach. And so this is what I'm encountering. I've encountered these gems, so what do I call it? Like this, germs of life. And there are these geometrical shapes that I can take, and there are feelings. And I can go to one and to the other. And then you may say, like, which one do you need to go to? And that, I think it also depends on what is required at the moment. What is the most appropriate state of consciousness for you to take right now? Right? Like, of course, So there's the quest that was there at the beginning of calibration. Now that calibration is done and coherence is there, there's also a quest in the world of soul, in the world of harmonization. There's a quest there. Which means is like, what kind of state of consciousness it's required of you to be there. And I start with something. I start with this universal, what I call universal rainbow feeling. I start with that universal feeling. And from there, I see what kind of shape it wants to take. But I do have already the memory of these states, right? This is why, like, I feel myself out. It's like, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And it's like, oh, it goes here and takes that shape. Okay? And so that's what, presumably, what theurgy is. It's you are able and capable to take these states of consciousness. And these states of consciousness are marvelous and amazing. And these states of consciousness that you are now and not discovering, but creating naturally, was simulated by some of the psychedelic drugs that you've taken. Okay? And you find all of these MDMA states of consciousness. You find these like high on weed, can't stop laughing states of consciousness. You find the reality as a fractal interactions, like sometimes that you find in mushrooms, and sometimes you get that DMT intensity just goes insane and crazy. It's there. These are there. And then you would say, but where it takes you, there's not a lot of that type of control. You cannot be too insistent on it. Does that make sense? Yes, there is a bit of a control. There is a control of intention, but you are making, that's the beginning of starting to make choices. Okay, because before that, the calibration part, there was not choice. But now it's harmonization part, there is a type of choice. But choice is still a quest. Choice is still saying that out of all of these choices, one of them there's going to be the best fit. So even there you kind of say like, okay, where is the best fit? That's the one that I want to go for. What's the best fit here? What kind of, you see? So even though there's a plethora of these states that are available, you're still going to have to go to the state that is most appropriate for this time fractal that you're living on that particular reality. Does that make sense? So you can unlock, you make these gems and you combine these gems to create another type of key to unlock that thing. It is like germinating the seed. Boom, the seed is alive now, it's moving because it matched something that it was required. So in the essence, everything that we talked about up to this point, it is about giving something that is being required of you. I think that's what definition of responsibility is doing something, moving something that is the most required of you. Not saying that this is sort of like, easy peasy, but if you begin with the right things and start building the foundation and then go, from the spirit first, then into the soul, then into the mind, and then into the body. If you do it like that, you will hit that, the art of living. Okay, and that's the game. And I want to distinguish this theurgy from thaumaturgy. It's a different soul magic, and then there's a mind magic. Soul magic is when you have these states of consciousness, these feelings, and you let them flower into a person, because that's a relationship, okay? A person, or it may not have a specific face or whatever, but there's already a being, a person that is perfectly fitting you, that manifestation, the true manifestation of the feeling that must be close to you as another person. So, right, like you see, so heart is not that worried about specific images. It's worried about the quality of the images, but the images already can take shape there. Does that make sense? Okay. And then you have this and rendering engine that just goes another round and then makes the environment, like the things on top of the quality. Does that make sense? So that's how your soul has the capacity to go into the form of images, from the sacred geometry, from the feelings, into the form of images. But these images are going to be kind of primordial. This is why sometimes people, like, they have dreams and say, like, well, I didn't see the face, but it was my person, or whatever, right? Something like that. Because the shape, the feeling was already this, the presence was already manifested, and that's what your soul can do. Okay, and you leave it there. But you don't try to use this other thaumaturgy to replace theurgy. Okay, you don't do that, but you use thaumaturgy where it is important as well. That is about things, and that is the things that you need. Okay, what do you need? Okay, I want to run this type of business. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, then you imagine this. Okay, how do you imagine it's going to work? And then you use logic as well. You say, like, okay, how is it going to work? Is this something that people want? Yeah, this seems like people want that. How are you gonna? What's your business strategy? And, like, for example, in this is like, maybe the business strategy is to create as much value as possible. Okay, that's a good one. All right, then fuck it. I'm just gonna try to create as much value as possible and respect my time. I'm gonna charge for my time fairly, but I'm going with my time, with that time, that I'm gonna create the maximum value as possible. If somebody comes to me and I basically throw my hat over the fence to show that person the way out of the suffering and end it permanently, and at least give them, open them to the faculty that they're capable of managing any kind of emotional pain. Okay, like that's the goal. And can I do that? And if I can do that, that's immense value to the person, because it places them on a completely different trajectory in life, and because they start understanding how to actually live life, and that's valuable. Because, like, you could have somebody who wants to die and kill themselves, to somebody's like, oh my god, I can't believe, I did not see this. See what I'm trying to say? So there's value there. I'm sure that there's value there. So I can see that there's value there. Then okay, I'm just going to keep on creating this as much as possible, and that would be one of the business ideas. Okay, so if I do that, then how do I position myself? That's exactly how I just said it. That's how I position myself. I say, this is exactly what I do. If you're interested, if you want it, here's how it is. Some people agree to post videos of it. There are videos, you can watch it, like, to see what kind of process, to see the person literally change between, while the video is rolling. And want to calibrate that, have that calibration session yourself. So yeah, so that's one of my incomes. And I did everything with my imagination, and I'm contributing some of the energy as well. So, like, how can I improve this? Like, I should probably get a website, that would be an improvement, of this, positioning myself better and more convenient for the people to just go to the page, read everything, maybe not to waste their time too much, so they don't have to watch 2-hour video. Just put highlights there. Okay, you can see, it's like, spend 15 minutes on the website and you get the most possible invitation that there is. You can see if it works for you. If you're ready to dive into this, then yeah, boom, done, right? So imagination must be still continued to be used in a thaumaturgical way, but these are more for practical means. Okay, so if I just say, well, I'm not going to have any kind of business model, I'm not going to position myself, nothing. Okay, so that's not going to work, right? Because you're not even making any kind of business out of it. That's what I was before, and I was like, oh no, I can't do that. Like, I have to structure this thing, and then begin to structure little by little, not pushing too much, but I'm structuring it, And I'm sure that my goal is not a lot. Like, my goal is to get like 2 to 4 sessions a day, because, and that's very limited in the sense that there's not a lot of people. So I don't even need that much traffic to have all these positions filled, because I'm not going to give the rest of my time to this particular endeavor, because this is just one of the things I do. But I want to fill this endeavor. Like, I want to be available for the people that want this thing that it's not a thing, but it's a skill, it's a faculty to learn. Yeah, and that's pretty much my model. And if you're interested, book a session, and as straightforward as I can put it, that's what it is. Then only then what happens is that usually people discover that and end up really playing with it and really understanding of how there was a super negative state that came from the family member or whatever. But then you see like, oh, my family member was just a portal to that energy. I cannot take it personal, because my family member maybe say some nasty ass shit, and if I take it personal, then I'm just not gonna be around that person, because like, I can't take it personal. So you don't take it personal. Not easy, but it's possible to do it. And all the times that I took it personal, it did not pan out well. At the same time, does not mean that like externally you take any kind of abuse, but emotionally you got to process that shit. If somebody crosses the line, then you just say, all right, I think I've had enough, and we'll talk, whatever, right? But emotionally you keep on working through that stuff. It's gonna work in the long run. It's gonna work better. Like, there is this thing where you can not let people to abuse you, but at the same time not to completely disconnect from that energy that is negative. So that allows you to capacity to take that energy and turn it into coherence, right? It's a different level of responsibility. And so that becomes your calibration, and that turns into a much more practical way. And the people that you're dealing with chill balls just because you are chill. When people are freaking out, then they get nasty. But if you chill, eventually they get chill too, through the way of osmosis. That energy works like that. If you really chill on an energetic level, and you're not acting that you're chill, but you're really chill, and someone's energy comes along and it tries to kind of move you, but you don't, and you keep on alchemizing and you keep it steady, that person's energy is going to change. You may rebel against it, not be comfortable with that much peace and whatever, right? But it's going to change eventually if you remain in that energy. And yes, sometimes it is challenging. Sometimes like it may take you out. It's okay. Go back on, recover fast. It's alright. It's normal. I'm just saying that it is normal. Because learning this calibration takes time. At least it took for me. I also think that for the people that come, later in the game, for example, what happens? Uh, they can learn so much faster, so much quicker. Boom, 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 boom. Because that's already been learned, in this morphogenetic field. That's already been discovered and enveloped. So then someone who comes in is just gonna can pick up speed very quickly, and even already start living the life and understand the world of states and feelings. And you see what I'm trying to say? That's what happens. I think in 1 year, some of the people that took my sessions in 1 year, maybe less than a year, they're pretty much like caught up. There's nothing that I can really teach them on that level anymore. On theurgy level and thaumaturgy level and physiology level, I also still learning, but there's a lot there that I can teach. So anyway, that brings me to this hypnosis thing, where only through the calibration and harmonization could you then go into this world of imagination and use it. But you see how it all works. It's backwards, because before you try to use create imagination states to compensate for the lack, but now there is an abundance, that feeling, and so you create a shape and a form out of that, and that's the white magic. Everything before that, before the calibration, everything is black magic, and then, well, dark magic, except if you use something for things, right? Like to make a business that may be neutral, and still use imagination for that. What I'm trying to say is, if you're in the matrix, and use your imagination for the practical things are going to be manifested there, rightfully so. But the only reason it's going to work in the wrong way is it's just a tool. It's neutral by itself, but because you're in the matrix, it is going to be used for something to mess something up. But when you start living holistically, that thing, thaumaturgy, does not change. It's still, you still use imagination for this stuff, right? It's in the world of things. It's necessary to be used, whether you play on the dark side or on the light side. It's a tool nonetheless. Okay, and by the way, that is the technology. By the way, technology, science, imagination of form that I'm talking about. This is the same process of consciousness. It's the same shell or layer of consciousness that science. There's another thing like calibration, mystery, harmonization, art, imagination, science, and then action or right action, craft. Okay, and so that's how the life is going to be placed upon, because that's the internal seed, the germ, the flower, the fruit. So consciousness it's folded like this in a toroidal field. You start with the nugget, then you grow art, mystery, art, science, craft. Mystery, art, science, craft. And so it's just like this breath of life. And when you get to that point, you are in the art of living. And that's the whole point. Then there's an enjoyment of playing the game, because you know how to play the game. We have not even learned how to play it. I haven't. I highly doubt that all these people before me, that they were like super great and whatnot, that even they did, because they were excelling at one thing, but not the other. Very few people who were in that complete thing, who figured out the game and played the game correctly, so to speak. All right, my battery is low, so I have to go. But you keep it down low, and don't be slow. Whatever, man. All right, at this, I think we covered enough. But like again, I'm also going to be somehow working with the world of imagination still. This hypnosis on this side is still useful. It's not. It doesn't become sort of like hypnosis as you used to know, but it is a type of work of imagination, and there is this type of play that is still there, that improves your world of things due to use of it. Okay, it's still useful. This is why, like, since thaumaturgy level, if you want to create some things and somebody, for example, you get into the right state of consciousness and you imagine something that you want, you contribute some of the energy to the science of your consciousness, and so you're creating the form. And that is, yeah, the things that you have, what kind of business you do, like all that shit, right? It's useful. And through this type of hypnosis, it's useful. You, in a way, like it's a self-hypnosis when you do it yourself, and it's a hypnosis if you do it for somebody else. But the point of it all is that we're all supposed to get to the point where we know how to use our consciousness in our imagination to do it ourselves. So that's my motto. Like, I will teach the calibration, I can teach the harmonization, I can teach the imagination, but once you learn it, you do it yourself. That's why, like, I would do it for you so you could do it yourself. Does that make sense? I can basically lead by example. Unacceptable. All right, guys. I think that's enough. All right, hit me up. Peace, and I'll see you in the next one.